Hi, this is the second part of my review of Mari Fitzduff's Introduction to Neuroscience for the Peacebuilder. You'll remember that this is a monograph that was written in 2015 that argued that people have two ways of thinking, reason and emotion. And we often think that those ways of thinking are equally powerful, or even that reason is or should be more powerful. But neurobiologists and social psychologists have taught us that actually reason is usually much less powerful than emotions. And we talked about Jonathan Haidt's metaphor of the rider and the elephant, where the rider appears to be in control, but anything unexpected happens, and the elephant's going to take matters into its own hands, just as emotions take matters into their own hands, such that emotions have hands. And all of this is due to biology and whether we rely on the prefrontal cortex or the amygdala when we make decisions. Now, on to new stuff, Mari talks about the hormone oxytocin, which affects distinctions between us and them. Oxytocin makes people more generous, more trusting, and compassionate, and it increases our sense of belonging and cooperativeness. So it sounds like it's good, and it sounds like it would be good if we had more oxytocin, right? Problem, it also can increase ethnocentrism, suspicion, and rejection of outsiders. So it turns out that humans have evolved for cooperation, but only with some people and not with others, which again naturally binds us to our in-group and makes us suspicious or fearful of the out-group. She also talks about mirror neurons, which are linked to our capacity for empathy and the ability to see things from another's point of view. Our brain responds the same way to our own pain and to the pain of some others. We respond to the pain of others if we care about the other, our children, our significant other, people in our in-group. And this is part of the unconscious emotional system. But when people are in conflict, they tend to turn off the empathetic response towards the other. And if the other is in pain, they either ignore it or perhaps even take joy in it. Ironically, high within group bonding seems to reduce a group's capacity to develop bridging relationships and cooperation with the other. So the stronger people are bound to their own group, which conservatives tend to be, naturally, biologically, the harder time they have building bridges to the outgroup. And this is a significant problem for peacebuilders, and one that we have to recognize and deal with effectively. So what does this matter to peacebuilding? Well, it might change what we try to do, and it might change how we do it. Now, this is the one area where which Mari would have gone into more detail than she did. She doesn't have a whole lot, but she does have a few ideas. One, to review, predispositions can be changed. The reason that I reject neuroscience when I first heard about it is I thought that it was saying that there was no way to make people get along, so peacebuilding was completely impossible and not worth trying. Well, I know it has succeeded in the past, And I believe my values are that we have to try because not trying is incredibly damaging. So I rejected most of what I knew about neuroscience because I was confused about the difference between predisposition and predetermination. That's the first thing that peace builders need to be very, very clear about. They're not the same. Some peace builders, either intentionally or more likely accidentally, try to increase people's oxytocin in the brain of disputants by creating informal interactions that allow the building of trust. For instance, gift giving, meal sharing, alcohol, at least in limited quantities, sharing of stories, positive physical gestures, good listening, group singing are all tools that peace builders use, and it turns out that neurobiologists have figured out that all of these things increase oxytocin and thereby increase the tendency to bond with the other and to cooperate. Dialogue does the same thing. It can actually change the neural circuits that are concerned with identity differences. And there are likely many other things we can do as well, although Mari doesn't have the space to talk about them in this monograph. Bottom line, we need to consider the importance of emotion in what we do, and we need to design our interventions accordingly. Mari's conclusion is that she hopes that a greater appreciation about how our genetic and physical predispositions, together with environmental factors, affect human behavior. And if we understand that, she hopes that we will take these into consideration when we engage in peace building. Such learning, she says, if used wisely, may help us develop more effective strategies for peace building. So at the end of her monograph, Mari has 10 questions, and since that was a bit overwhelming, we raise 3. The primary one is, what can and should peace builders do about such cognitive biases and preconditions? More specifically, how do we address people's emotional needs as well as their rational interests and needs in our peace building work? And how can we work within the constraints of non-rational emotional thinking? In other words, work with the elephant, rather than trying to engage in a futile effort to convert all thinking to the rational approach. We hope that you'll consider these questions and several more related ones that we have on the discussion page that's attached to this post. Thanks.